The Ringing Cedars, Series 23, Anastasia, Book 1, Vladimir Megre. Careful attitude towards human beings. I asked Anastasia, who taught her to speak, if she barely remembers her mother and father, and her grandfather and great-grandfather rarely spoke to her. The answers I got surprised me, and they asked to be designed by experts. So I will try to convey them as completely as possible. You mean the ability to speak the languages of different people? What does different mean? Can you speak several languages? Yes, answered Anastasia. In German, French, English, Japanese, Chinese. Yes, she repeated and added, well, you see, I speak in your language. You mean in Russian? Well, that's too general. At least I try to talk using those phrases and words that you use. It was a bit difficult for me at first, because your vocabulary is not very rich. Feelings are also not very expressed. It is difficult to convey precisely everything one would like with such a language. Wait, Anastasia, now I will ask you something in a foreign language and you will answer me. I said to her, good day, in English, then in French. She answered me right away. Unfortunately, I do not know foreign languages. I studied German at school, and that for 3. I just remembered the whole phrase, which I learned well.
Ich liebe dich, und gib mir deine Hand.
She held out her hand to me and answered in German, I'm giving you my hand. Amazed by what I heard, still not believing my ears, I asked, what is it? Can every man be taught all languages? I intuitively felt that there must be some kind of simple explanation for this unusual phenomenon, which I need to gain insight into and introduce people to. Anastasia, speak in my language and try to give examples, and make it understandable. I asked, a little upset. Okay, just calm down, relax, or you won't understand. But let me first teach you to write in Russian. I can write, and you tell me about learning foreign languages. Not only writing, I will teach you to become a writer, a gifted one. You will write a book. That is not possible. It is possible. It's simple. Anastasia took a small stick and wrote on the ground the entire Russian alphabet with punctuation marks. She asked how many letters were there. 33, I answered. You see, there aren't that many letters. Can you call what I wrote down a book? No, I replied, it's just the alphabet, and that's all. Ordinary letters. But all books in the Russian language consist of these ordinary letters, noted Anastasia. Do you agree with that? Do you realize how simple it is? Yes, but in the books they are arranged differently. Correctly, all books consist of a multitude of these letter combinations. A person arranges them automatically, indulging in feelings. It follows from this that the first thing that is created is not a combination of letters and images, but feelings that are described by his imagination. The one who will read it will have approximately the same feelings, and will remember them for a long time. Can you remember some pictures, situations from the books you read? I can, I replied, thinking it over. For some reason, Hero of Our Time, by Lermontov came to mind, so I started retelling it to Anastasia. She interrupted me. You see, you can portray the heroes of that book, tell what they felt, and since the moment you read it, a lot of time has passed. And here, if I were to ask you to tell in which sequence the 33 letters are arranged in it, what combinations were created from them, could you repeat it? Not, that is not possible. It's really, really hard. So, feelings were transmitted from one person to another with the help of the most diverse combinations of 33 letters. You forgot these combinations, but the feelings and images remained in your memory for a long time. This is what is obtained if the feelings of the soul are directly connected with these signs, so that the reader will later feel the soul of the writer. Wait, Anastasia, tell me who and how taught you to understand foreign languages? My great-grandfather, answered Anastasia. Tell me with an example, I asked, wanting to understand everything right away. He was playing with me. Tell me how he played. Great-grandfather was playing with me, kind of joking. When he came to see me without my grandfather, he always approached me, bowed to the waist, extended his hand, and I extended mine to him. First he shook my hand, knelt down, kissed me and said, "Good morning, Anastasia." Once he came, he did everything as usual. His eyes looked at me lovingly as always, and his lips spoke some kind of abracadabra. I looked at him with admiration, and he was saying something else, completely incoherent. I couldn't stand it, so I asked him, "Did you, Grandpa, forget what to say?" "Forgot," answered the great-grandfather. Then the great-grandfather took a few steps away from me, thinking about something. Then he approached me again and offered his hand, and I gave him mine. He fell on his knee, kissed my hand. His gaze was tender, his lips were moving, but without words. I was even scared, and then I whispered to him, "Good morning, Anastasia," I said, correctly. The great-grandfather confirmed and smiled, but I understood that it was a game, and we played so often. At first it wasn't complicated, then the game got more and more complex and it became more and more interesting. It starts at the age of 3 and stops at the age of 11, when a person seems to pass an exam, which consists in looking carefully at the interlocutor and being able to understand him without words, no matter in what language he expresses himself. Such dialogue is much more perfect than spoken dialogue, and it is faster and more meaningful. You call it teleportation of thought. You consider it an unusual phenomenon, from the realm of fantasy, and it is simply a careful attitude towards people, a rich imagination and a good memory. Behind that is hidden not only a more perfect way of exchanging information, but also knowledge of the human soul, plant and animal life, and the entire universe in general. Anastasia, what meaning do the plants that grow on the land have here? What meaning do they have here? But what sense? At the same time, the child gets to know the plant world as a part of the mechanism of the universe. He enters into a relationship with his planets, with their help. And with the help of his parents he learns the truth very quickly and intensively develops in the field of psychology, philosophy, natural sciences, science in you. I already told you, Anastasia, that the child can later become an agronomist. And why will knowledge in other fields appear in it? But Anastasia began to assure that a person who was brought up in such a way will have the ability to quickly acquire knowledge in any field of science in our country.